Good morning. Happy Monday, everyone. How was everyone's weekend? Mine was not long enough. It's Monday again already. I wasn't ready. Can we start over again? Can I get a weekend do-over? Hey, Suzanne. First one here, Julie. Hi. There's Steph. Good morning, everybody. Did you guys have a good weekend? Mine was good, but way too short. I need like a whole nother day just to kind of sleep. I'm just not quite awake yet this morning, but I have a fun project. So hopefully that's going to wake me up and get me going, because this one's a really fun one. I think this is an interesting project. And hey, Paulette. Hi, Dorita. I think this is an interesting project that you guys are going to like, and then you're going to see ways as we go, as with all of my projects, no matter whether I'm here or somewhere else working with another product. I try to give you guys inspiration that you can take the base design and then turn it into something else, right? Do something completely different with it. And that's what I'm kind of hoping this design is. I love lariat style necklaces. Hey, Leah. Hey, Tracy. And using SilverSilk as a lariat is one of my very favorite ways to use any of the SilverSilks, whether it's the hollow mesh or the capture chain or the flat hollow mesh. It makes a really interesting lariat as well, and you can like knot it up and do really cool, interesting things with it. So this style of necklace is one of my favorites, but the component that we're going to make is one of those components that you can take and turn into a lot of different things. You could turn this into earrings. You could hang some SilverSilk from this instead of using it as the component for a necklace. So I'm hoping to kind of give you guys some ideas that maybe you can take and stretch your creativity with. So we're going to be creating a wire component out of some 16. Hey, Mimi, good morning. We're going to be creating a component out of some 16 gauge wire. And then we're going to use some 24 gauge wire for some easy wrapping, guys. This is not hard wrapping. And then just a little bit of 22 gauge to add in one of our beautiful new Tibetan focal beads. And it really just all kind of comes together really beautifully. But again, it's something that you can turn into a lot of different things. So that's what I'm hoping you guys are going to do, because you always do a wonderful job of that. So before we get started, a couple of things I want to mention. One interesting thing that is over on the silversilkonline.com is the Playtime Mystery Kits. I don't know if I'm sure that you guys have seen them and heard Neela talk about them, but I'm very intrigued by these. So all of the Playtime Mystery Kits are different. And I'm just really kind of interested in those. I love a good surprise. Anything that comes that's like, it's brand new to me as soon as I open it. So check those out while you are checking out the capture chain. I'm going to be using gold capture chain for this project, but you can use any of the colors. There's some two-tone capture chain over on silversilkonline.com, and I think they would be really beautiful with this as well. So definitely keep your creative juices flowing while we are working on this project. All right. Second, before we get to it, if you guys don't mind to give this a share, Neela and I would very, very much appreciate it. The more, the merrier. So if you will give this a share to wherever you are a member of a group that allows videos or tutorials, that would be awesome. All right, let's get down to it. Waste no more time and get right into our project this morning. So I've got a couple of things on the mat. You can see one of the things that I'm going to be using. Hi, Gabriella. Hi, Donna. Nancy, how is everyone? So one of the things that I'm going to be using for today's project is the Artistic Wire Mandrel tool. This is one of my favorite tools to use when it comes to making components. You can grab these over on the Jesse James Beads website. You can grab these, you know, a lot of people already have this tool and it's just stuck in their drawer. Grab it. This is a great one to use for making components, and it's interchangeable, so you can make not only circles with this, but you can make you know, squares and triangles and ovals as well. I love it. I've got one on hand all the time and I reach for it. If you don't have one of these mandrel tools, you can use something that is round. Obviously, you're going to need something that is about 25 millimeters around, and then a second something round that is about 21 millimeters, because we're going to use two of those to create this component. Okay. And then you're just going to need your standard tools, just your regular, you know, your pliers, your round nose, your chain nose, and a cutter tool for this. Okay. So 16 gauge wire is what I'm going to be using to create this, and let me show you. This is where we're going. This is the component we're going to make, right? We're going to start here. So this is the first thing we're going to create with our 16 gauge wire, and that's going to be all we need for the 16 gauge wire. So you're going to need about 12 inches of it. You'll probably have a little bit left over, but definitely make sure you've got at least 12 inches, and you can always adjust, you know, the circles for this as well. Okay, grab yourself a beautiful Tibetan focal bead from Jesse James Beads, and then some smaller beads. I'm using some 4mm. I'm not really sure what kind of beads these are. I just found them in my stash. I thought it was a pretty red that went with the good, it went really well with a focal bead, and then an added little dangle here. So the sky is the limit. You can kind of mix and match whatever you want to create a really fun necklace here. It doesn't have to be this exact, okay? All right, so with our 16 gauge wire, I'm going to come down here on the mandrel tool to the 25mm. Okay, that's the biggest part of the mandrel, and I'm finding sort of the middle. Let me raise you up just a little bit. All right, that's a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to find the middle of that wire, put my thumb down on it, and then I'm going to take both sides and wrap around here and go all the way around once, and then kind of bend your wires towards the back a bit. Okay, we're not going all the way around a second time. Leah, yes, you can use 18 gauge if you don't have 16 and you're going to need to work harden it. I'm going to work harden the 16 as well, but yeah, you definitely can use 18 for this for sure. Okay, so I've made the first circle, okay, and I brought my tails down here to one side. So when I take this up, this is what I've got. You can see I've got my wires still going, okay? Now I want to jump up 1, 2, 3 up here to the 21 gauge, and your tail wire, just one of them, okay? You don't do both of them, just one of them. Hold this together on that 21, right? So you can see there's still lots of room because we've got that bigger circle. Take one of the tails and you want to guide it around the 21, okay? And then on back around. And so then when you take it off, you've got 2 circles, right? And you might need to practice that a couple of times if you've never done it before, just because it's kind of awkward feeling to hold that one circle on there and just use the tail to make the smaller circle. But once you get the hang of it, it's not that hard to do, okay? All right, so now we have the tails here. We don't need the mandrel anymore. We've got this double circle shape that you could turn into a million different things, okay? My mind is always turning the ideas around. This would be a great earring component. This would be, you know, a perfect pendant. This could be the charm of a necklace or a bracelet. A lot of different things you can do with just this design right here, okay? So the first thing you want to do is you want to come in with your chain nose pliers, and the wire that is coming in the front, okay, we've got 3 wires that we're working with here. This front wire, you want to take it and bend it very carefully without destroying your circle. You want to bend it very carefully straight up and down, okay? And if you wiggle it out of shape, you can always come back over to your component, right, to your mandrel rather, and work it back into shape. Okay, so you want that front wire to be going straight up and down. Now we want to take this back wire that's back here, and first of all, I'm going to bend it up just a little bit, just so I can get a good grip on it, okay? You want to take this back wire and you want to wrap around the front wire about twice. So you're doing a wrap around like we're doing a wrapped loop, but we're not doing a loop. We're just wrapping around this straight section of wire here. Okay, now it may be easier if you clamp down, right, with your pliers with your left hand and then guide the wire around. Since it is 16 gauge wire, it's tough. So you may even want to just give it a good bend with your pliers to get it started, right? The most important thing is you just want to go slow so that you do not mess up the component shape. Okay, so go real slow. There's my first wrap around. Okay, and then I'm going to do the second wrap around, and I'm going slow. I'm turning the component, kind of pushing the wire with my finger, right? Even going to come in and kind of help it a little bit. If you're using 18 gauge wire instead of 16, this is going to go a lot smoother because it's a little bit softer to work with. Okay, 2 wraps around is all you're going to need. Oh, thank you, Paulette. I love this component too. That was a goofy laugh. I'm so sorry. I don't know what that was. It's a fun little component, and it can be used in so many different ways. All right, so we trim off that tail wire. So now we've just got this one wire here. Okay, now before we cut this off, we're just going to do a simple loop with this. Here was the other one. You can see how these would make really cool earrings. Just saying. You could take these, add some beads to these, dangle some capture chain. Yeah, you could do some really cool things with just this component. I had a standby just in case I completely destroyed the first one. So always have a standby. But before we create just a regular loop here, I just wanted to show you that since we have a lot of extra wire here, you could actually thread on another bead, right? You could add to this before you move on to creating something else, okay? So keep that in mind if you wanted to add extra beads to this. It's still pretty much gonna hang the same way, right? In the lariat, it's gonna kind of hang sideways like this, like at an angle, and then your capture chain is going to come through the middle, right? So you can add more beads to this. I'm just going to create just a regular loop with this. I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm bending this forward, okay? You can bend it whichever direction you want to, but I want my loop to go front to back, okay? Because that's how we're going to attach it to the capture chain findings, right? Okay, so I've brought it to the front. I'm going to trim off because I don't need all of this. I'm just going to create just a simple loop. So all I need is enough to come in with my round nose pliers, grab the end of that wire, and then I'm going to roll backwards towards the component to create a loop. And this was not the prettiest loop, you guys, but that's all right because it's going front, you know, you're only seeing the front side of it. So if it's not the prettiest loop, that's really not the prettiest loop, but that's okay. You're not going to see it. It's totally fine. Okay. The most important part is the component itself. And that's all there is to it. You're ready to go. At this point, if you wanted to make earrings, obviously you could add, you know, your ear wire to this. You could decorate it however you wanted to. You could wear it just like it is. It'd look really pretty. In fact, using the 16 gauge wire to put this on a block and flatten it with a chasing hammer and then add texture to it with the ball side of the hammer would be really awesome as well. So again, like there's so many different things. This is just such a cool component. I just wanted to add it to this necklace so that you guys could take it and really do other things with it. Okay, Suzanne says her loops are never pretty. Mine very rarely are pretty. At least this kind of loop. A wrapped loop, I can make those pretty, but just a regular loop, mine never turn out very well. All right, so I am going to bring in my block. Even though this is 16 gauge wire, I am going to work hard on this just a tiny bit, just for insurance. And you'll notice that I did both sides. Always want to work hard on both sides, okay? So that's all we really needed to do for that. So this is already pretty stiff wire. However, if you are using the 18 gauge wire, definitely want to work hard on this a bit more, okay? Just so that it keeps its shape. Okay, so now we're going to do some wire wrapping, and do not be intimidated by this wire wrapping. This is just simple wrapping around. There is nothing difficult about this at all. We are going to anchor some 24 gauge wire. You can use 26 if you want to. We're going to anchor some 24 gauge wire up here. We're going to wrap part of the way down where our circle starts to open up, where the space starts to get wider. We're going to stop and we're going to add our beads. So you'll see this is going to be fairly easy. So get yourself a bit of 24 gauge wire. I'm using like a wingspan. I know that's not a technical measurement, but that's what we're working with. You just want to give yourself plenty, and if you run out, this is one of those situations where you can very easily add wire to it and hide it. You won't see, it'll be very, very seamless. So I want to take my wire, I'm just going to wrap, see how I'm underneath the wraps of the 16 gauge wire? I'm just going to wrap around twice, really just to anchor that 24 gauge wire, and then I'm going to go ahead and come to the back and trim off this tail because we don't need it. Okay, so now we're just going to wrap around. We are literally just going to wrap around the 2 wires and fill this in with wire wraps. And this part, the only thing is you want to be sure that your wire wraps are close together, but the good news is that you've got your chain nose pliers that you can come in and squeeze those together. You can use your fingers to squeeze them together. Pretty easy. You do not, however, want to tug on this. You want your wire wraps to be tight, obviously, but I'm not really pulling hard. And part of the reason is because I don't want to pull the component, the 2 wires here. I don't want to squeeze those together. It's going to take this component and it'll mess up the shape of it. So you want to wrap around and make sure that your wire wraps are consistent and you know, they lay nice and flat, but you don't want to pull really, really hard at all because you don't want to squeeze the of the component. Okay, so I'm just wrapping around. There's nothing to this. There's no pattern. I'm just wrapping around both wires. Okay. And if you wanted to skip the beads on this, you absolutely could just fill the entire component with wire wraps. I did that yesterday. I should have left it. I took it apart, but I should have left it so that I could show it to you. Looked really pretty as well. So you don't even have to add beads to this if you don't want to. Uh-oh, my beads just went flying. In fact, let me move these guys so that we don't lose any more of those. This stuff is okay. On you, see how I've got a little kink here? That's just kind of the nature of the 24. Just very carefully undo it. Drop everything in the floor. That's not good. Okay. All right, so we're just going to keep going around a few more times, and then we're going to add some beads to this. And the beads are going to lay in this open space in the component. And I definitely can tell, I've got a really long piece of wire, but I can tell right away that I don't have enough. We're probably going to have to add some wire to this, and that's fine. Somebody's talking, oh, a wingspan. I was like, what are you guys talking about? Everyone's wings are different. This is true. This is true. So when I talk about a wingspan, I mean about, well, from the tip of your fingers to the middle of your chest, that's half a wing. So that would be what, about 3 feet, I guess? A full wingspan, well, that's just kind of average. A full wingspan will probably be about 6 feet. So I don't think you need a full 6 feet for this, but I definitely would give yourself a good 4 to 5 feet of the 24 gauge wire, unless that is just too much for you to mess with. I know that the longer the wire is, the more frustrating sometimes it can be to work with. And so you can definitely add wire to this. That's funny though. Kathleen says, my bird is probably a raven. Yeah, I don't know what the raven's wingspan would be, but yeah, that would definitely be my bird for sure, or a crow. Any corvid. They're smart, I'm telling you. All right, we're getting pretty close, and I'm going to use this one as kind of my guide. So I'm going to wrap around about one more time, and then we'll make it 2 just for good measure, and then we're going to start adding the beads to this. Okay, and adding the beads is really, really easy. This is much easier working out the kinks here. Okay, so excuse me, we're going to start adding the beads. The beads we want to lay in the space between the 2 pieces of wire, and the 2 wires are pretty close together all up here, but then it's going to widen out. So these first little beads are actually going to sit probably more on top of the wire than between the wires. That's okay. That's totally fine. So you just want to come to the end of the wire and add a bead. I'm using 4mm beads for this, and actually this looks more like a 3.5mm bead if I'm being completely honest. Where's the hole? There we go. So you can add whatever kind of beads you want to, and something that I considered doing with this is doing a starting with smaller beads here and then making larger beads in the middle and then doing smaller beads up the sides. You definitely could do that. So you can change this around. You can use seed beads, and if you used seed beads you could do more than one bead per wrap, which would look really pretty as well, just to fill the whole thing up with seed beads. So a lot of different options. Always keep those gears turning, thinking about other things that you can do with one thing, because you can take the exact same start and create something completely different, right? You can have the same component and use it 15 different ways, which is always fun. Oh my gosh, Wanda, the longer the wire, the more sentence enhancers required. Yes, yes to that. I feel that in my soul. Okay, so I've added a bead to the wire, and I just brought the bead down, and it is sitting on top of those two wires, okay? And my wire is coming at a diagonal. I'm going to wrap around once both of the wires to lock that in place, okay? So there was one around. I'm going to do a second around as well, okay? And now I'm ready to add another bead. So from the back, there's just two wraps, right? There's a bead and then two wraps. Let's see, could you just add beads without wrapping plain? You could. You absolutely could. I'm telling you, there are so many different things that you can do with this singular component. It's really, you know, it's a fun one to just make really quickly and then play with and figure out all the different things that you can do. All right, so there's another bead. It's laying on top, okay, wrapping around both wires. Again, don't pull. If you pull too tight, you're gonna mess up the structure. So don't pull. Just be sure that everything is secure, but not too tight. Okay. Wrap around again, and now we're ready for another bead. So we're just going to add the beads as we go, fill up that space until we get over to the other side, and then we are going to finish off with the wire wrapping. And of course, as you go, the space is going to open up, so the beads are going to make their way to the middle of the two wires instead of sitting on top. Okay, uh-oh. Here's where the sentence enhancers come in. Where that wire wants to not behave. All right. So going around, and we're ready for another bead. Hi, Karen. Welcome in. Hey, Lisa. Hazel. Hazel, you have such a beautiful name. Love that. All right, see this one, this is going to be more, and I'm going to kind of stretch these out a little bit. They're a little too close together. All right, this one's going to be more towards the center of the two wires. It's not really going to be sitting on top anymore, which I am totally okay with. All right, wrap around, and we're ready to add one more. All right, I'm so sorry. It keeps popping out of the frame because this long piece of wire keeps pulling it away. So there's no real number as far as the beads are concerned. You just want to fill it up and have them as evenly spaced as possible, just so that it all looks nice and even. So even number, odd number really makes no difference as far as how many beads here. I feel like this one is going to have more beads than the original, and that's totally fine. It does mean that I'm going to have to open up my little bead jar though. And something else, you guys, you could, if you wanted to, you could use, instead of using wire for this, because I know some people, wire is not their strong point, and that's totally fine. You could actually do this with a needle and thread and seed beads, right? A really pretty Nymo color, or the Wildfire comes in different colors. A really pretty color of thread here, or cotton cord. I mean, really, the sky is the limit. All right, we're gonna have to open up the bead container because I am running out of beads, and unfortunately they're not all the same shade of red, but that's okay. It won't matter in the long run. All right, let's see. Whoa, tie myself a knot here again with the sentence enhancers. They're going through my head, you guys. I'm behaving myself since, you know, live and all. But yeah. Okay, there we go. All right, popping that bead into place, wrapping around. So we've got room for a couple more beads, and then we're going to finish off with some more of the wire wrapping, and we will just come up to the top and finish it off the exact same way we started, just by wrapping around the wire wraps. Yeah, Mary, you could even add seed beads to the wire wrap in the beginning. You are absolutely right. You could. It's just so cool, the different things that you can do with this. And probably one of my very favorite parts of doing Facebook Live is that you guys always have like such cool ideas of things that you could do, things that you could try, ways that you could make it different. I absolutely love that, because then I come away from this so inspired. All right, we're getting close. I think I've got room for maybe 1 or 2 more beads. It is a good thing, Kathleen, that my brain is not live. If my brain were live, I would not have a job. I think people would just be so horrified, because I definitely am a dirty mouth with feet. Karen, I'm calling these a 4mm bead, but I'll be honest with you, I think it's a 3.5mm. This is a pretty small bead. So I would probably call it a 3.5mm. You definitely could do a 4 though, for sure. Okay, this is going to be the last bead that we add. So now we are going to just finish this off with just wrapping around the 2 wires. So we're almost done, and it looks like I did end up with enough wire, whereas I thought in the beginning I didn't have enough. It's funny, just over on the Jessie James Beads, I do Facebook Lives, and then I also do a lot of YouTube videos as well, and I do YouTube videos for Dress It Up buttons as well, and I edit those videos myself as much as possible, and then I pass them off to Danielle, and Danielle does the rest of the editing and makes it all, you know, she does all the cool technical stuff to it. I just edit out all of my sentence enhancers. And when I first started doing the YouTube videos, I was asked, would you like us to, would you like Danielle just to edit the entire thing? You just give her the raw video footage. And I was like, are you kidding me? There is no way I'm going to hand off the video that I make before I edit out all of the stuff that happens in between takes. Right? Because, oh man, it's full of sentence enhancers, and I talk to myself in between there, and I edit all of that stuff out. Then I give it to Danielle, and she edits it some more. It's like, no, Danielle, she can't. I would be so mortified if she heard all of the things that I say. Oh my goodness, it's pretty bad. So just know that every time you go to watch one of my YouTube videos, whether it's on my channel, on the Jessie James Beads channel, over on Dressed Up, but wherever you happen to find me on YouTube, because I'm in a lot of places, just remember that you are getting the clean, it has not been, or it has been edited for content. I don't have to put one of those explicit content warnings on there. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And then there's also silly stuff that happens, a lot of B-roll, and that's, you know, that's just funny stuff that I feel like I should probably save for posterity. Just funny little things. But yeah, you guys get the clean version. All right, we're almost there. So you'll notice I was just wrapping around and chatting at the same time. There's really not anything special. I am going to trim some of this off because it's driving me crazy. There's nothing really out of the ordinary that I was doing here. Just straight wire wrapping across both of the wires. And now I'm to the end, and I just want to take this tail and wrap it around twice. And you know, you don't even have to. You can cut it off at the last wire wrap if you want to. I'm going to undo one of these. It's up to you. It's still secure either way. Trim that off on the back, and then check it with your finger. Make sure that there isn't anything sticking up here. And then if you want to, you can come in with your Mary, that's so true. Yes, you can come in with your nylon gel pliers if you want to, and kind of pinch down on those wire wraps just to make them all nice and flat so there's not anything sticking up. And you've got a really cool component that you can turn into a million different things, right? Even if you follow all of these steps and you don't turn it into a lariat, but you keep the component as is, you could hang something from here if you wanted to and make a pendant that way. You could make it an earring. So a lot of different options, even if you follow all of these steps without changing it up. All right, so we're going to put ours, look how pretty, those would be great earrings. But we're not making earrings, we're making a beautiful necklace, because the gold capture chain, or any of the capture chains, is the perfect lariat style necklace. So that's what we're going to do. So with our capture chain, I've gone ahead and put one of the findings on one end. I'll do the other one with you guys here in just a little bit, but we're going to put together the end of our lariat. So I'm going to use this Tibetan focal bead. Got this from Jesse James Beads. These are new. And then I used some more of my small little red beads and some pieces of chain and attached them just kind of in a little staggered pattern, right? This is going to hang from the bottom of our bead here, just to give some extra movement to our piece. And so this guy needs to be wire wrapped. He needs a wire wrapped loop on the top and the bottom, and we're going to wire wrap him directly to the SilverSilk finding. Okay, so you're going to need a small piece of 22 gauge wire for this, and I had a piece, but it looks like I knocked it into the floor. So, as is the case when you're using big pieces of wire, it just gets crazy. Okay, so you're going to need a piece of 22 gauge wire. Give yourself, I don't know, give yourself about 4 inches. This is way more than I need, obviously. Okay, so I'm going to come down on that wire with my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to bend that wire. Make yourself this little backwards 7 or a capital L, whatever you need. Okay, and then I'm coming in with the round nose pliers, and I'm coming back because I want this loop to be pretty big. So I'm coming towards the back of the pliers, and I'm going up and over with the tail. Roll the pliers out of the way and go ahead and guide that wire all the way around. Now, before I do the wire wraps, I want to take the wire, and I'm going to take that tail and stick it through the loop on the finding and pop it together just like that. And then we're going to do the wire wrapping. So I'm going to grab that wire with some bent chain nose pliers and do the wire wrap. And I'm actually going to double up my wire wraps. You don't have to. So I've gone around 3 times, and now I'm going to come back up to the top just kind of wrapping over the wraps that I already made. You don't have to do this part if you don't want to. This is just really just kind of preference when it comes to the bead and everything being kind of uniform here. There's a little tail there. I'm going to trim that off. Okay, so that is wire wrapped directly to the finding. No jump ring there. If you want to use a jump ring, you totally can. I'm going to thread on my bead, and then I'm going to do the same thing down here on the bottom. I'm just going to do a wrapped loop. Okay, round nose pliers coming in, up and over. Roll the pliers out of the way. Make that on around. And I'm going to switch hands and do my wire wrap here. And again, I'm going to double up, so I'm going to just wrap back over the wraps that I already made. And that really, the only reason I do that is just to make it a little bit more chunky so that it kind of fits more with the bead here, because the top of the bead, the surface area up here is pretty large, and it looks fine with just a single layer of wire wrapping, but I like to chunk it up a little bit, make it a little bit wider and thicker, just so that it all seems more balanced. All right, so there is our bead. We've got our loop, and we're going to add our jump ring to this. I could have just wire wrapped this on, but I figure if you guys are going to do this, you're going to have to open this jump ring at some point. So just attach that little guy on there. And this part of the necklace is complete. It's ready to go. This is going to be the part that you thread through the component, right, to loop around for your lariat. The other part, we need to attach our finding to the end of our capture chain. And so I'm just going to take the capture chain, slide it into the finding. You want to go as far in as you can, about 2. There's ball chain on the inside of the capture chain. You want to go about 2 in, okay? And then using my nylon jaw pliers, give that a squeeze, get it nice and closed, give it the tug test, make sure that it's not going to come undone. And if you'll remember, this loop is not a wrapped loop. It is just a regular loop. So I can very easily open that laterally, thread it on, and then close it back. And that's it. Our necklace is done. And we've got a lariat style necklace that you could even, my capture chain piece is a little short, but you could double this up with the full length of the capture chain, and you would have, you know, you could do 2 strands instead of 1. It would be really, really beautiful. Let me put this on a bust so that I can show it to you guys, and then I will let you guys get on with your day. So let me adjust this just a little bit, and then I will actually, here, I'll flip you guys around while I'm working so that you're not just looking at nothing. There we go. All right, so got my bust here. Thread this through, and then I need to shorten it up so that you guys can actually see it, because the bust is not quite long enough for this style. Thank you guys. I really hope that you have enjoyed this project and that I've given you guys some inspiration to take on for the rest of the day. So that's what we've ended up with. We have this really cool lariat. So it's not just a simple ring. We've got this really cool wire wrapped beaded component here, bringing the whole capture chain through, added our bead at the end. You really get kind of crazy with this, right? You could do all kinds of fun things with this to make it your own. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I think it's pretty. I think it's a neat one. Definitely an interesting design for sure. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me today. It is always a pleasure. What a fun way to start the week. If you guys want to see me again, kind of wonder why you would want to, but if you guys would like to see me again, you can catch me tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Jesse James Speeds Facebook page for our Monday Maker. We are doing a project that I don't even know what it is yet. That's a surprise to even me. So it'll be a fun one though. I know it will be. I've got some ideas. Always got something going on up here when it comes to jewelry making. So join me tonight, and otherwise, You guys, don't forget to tune in tomorrow night for Tuesday Toots with Neela. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye, guys.